The story begins with a brutal goblin raid that leaves an entire village covered in blood and destruction. The monsters proudly declare that no human in the area will survive. Just as the villagers are about to lose all hope, a young man named Asai Kusama suddenly steps forward. He warns the goblins not to move another inch, claiming he can wipe them out instantly if they continue attacking. Of course, the creatures laugh at his threat, and one of them immediately charges toward him. However, before the goblin can even reach him, a mysterious girl suddenly appears and unleashes several powerful spells that completely annihilate almost every monster in sight. The final surviving goblin becomes frozen in terror the moment the girl approaches him. We are then introduced to her as Maya, the younger sister of Asai. Soon after, the story shifts into the past and reveals the moment Asai first arrived in this fantasy world. Before reincarnating, he sacrificed his own life to save a little girl from being struck by a speeding vehicle. Even while facing death, Asai felt satisfied because becoming a hero had always been his greatest dream. Surprisingly, even after dying, he could still witness everything happening back in the real world. Despite that, one regret continued bothering him more than anything else. He never managed to complete his favorite video game before losing his life forever. Moments later, a strange light suddenly envelops his body and drags him into another dimension. When he opens his eyes again, he finds himself standing in a world filled with dragons, slimes, and creatures that seem straight out of a fantasy RPG. Completely amazed by the scenery around him, Asai quickly heads toward a nearby kingdom to investigate the place further. The more he explores, the more excited he becomes because the entire world resembles the games and anime he loved in his previous life. To make things even stranger, he realizes he can perfectly understand the language spoken there. Since he spent most of his old life obsessed with games and otaku culture, adapting to this new environment feels surprisingly natural to him. While wandering through the city, Asai notices that his cell phone no longer has any signal. Since it has become useless, he decides to sell it at a pawn shop. The owner becomes curious after seeing such a bizarre object and eventually pays him 500 ballies in exchange for it. Asai quickly assumes that the currency works similarly to the money from his former world. Using those funds, he buys proper clothes and equipment so he can finally begin living like a true adventurer. Filled with excitement, Asai immediately visits the Adventurer Guild to register himself. There, he meets a receptionist named Tanja, whose teasing and flirtatious behavior instantly makes him nervous. Embarrassed by the attention, Asai struggles to stay calm while she prepares his registration papers. After finishing the process, Tanja assigns him his very first mission. His task is to hunt several killer rabbits, since they are considered the weakest monsters and are commonly used as beginner targets for rookie adventurers. Not long after leaving the guild, Asai suddenly encounters something far beyond his level, a dangerous wyvern. Terrified, he desperately tries to avoid its attacks while searching through his abilities and status window for a way to survive. Unfortunately, he soon discovers a horrifying truth. His stats are unbelievably terrible, making him one of the weakest people in the entire world. As the wyvern prepares to finish him off, Asai becomes convinced that death is unavoidable. In his final moments of panic, he thinks about his sister and desperately wishes she could somehow save him. The instant that thought crosses his mind, a summoning suddenly activates before his eyes. Maya appears out of nowhere, and her power instantly begins increasing at an absurd rate. After effortlessly dodging the wyvern's attacks, she destroys the massive creature with a single overwhelming blow. Asai is left speechless as he stares at her in disbelief, unable to understand whether he is imagining things or if his sister truly exists in this new world alongside him. The moment Maya reunites with Asai, she immediately clings to him and begins treating him with overwhelming affection since he has always been the most important person in her life. After calming down a little, she explains what happened after his accident back in their original world. According to her, Asai fell into a coma after being taken to the hospital. However, even while unconscious, he constantly smiled and talked as if he were enjoying some kind of dream. Seeing him like that made Maya desperate to follow him no matter what. In the end, she literally injured herself by repeatedly hitting her own head just so she could somehow arrive in the same world as him. After spending some time talking, the siblings eventually begin discussing how they can return to Earth. Unfortunately, once they think about it seriously, they realize they have absolutely no clue how to go back home. Instead of panicking, Maya suddenly bursts into laughter and happily declares that they now have no choice but to start a completely new life in this fantasy world together. The story then returns to the present timeline, where Maya finishes eliminating the final goblin that survived the massacre. She coldly explains that she refused to spare the creature because it dared to insult her beloved brother. Hearing that leaves Asai confused, since he assumed she was angry because the goblins destroyed the village. The moment Maya notices a small scratch on his face, she immediately becomes overly worried and starts fussing over him non-stop. At that exact moment, the villagers finally arrive and witness the aftermath of the battle. Since they never saw Maya fighting, everyone mistakenly assumes that Asai single-handedly defeated all the goblins himself. The villagers begin praising him as a hero, while Maya becomes incredibly happy seeing people finally admire and respect her brother. She does not care in the slightest that he is receiving credit for everything. Several hours later, Asai heads back to the Adventurer Guild, where Tanja informs him that he has already been promoted to the Ogre rank. She even admits that no adventurer in history had ever climbed 3 ranks in such a short amount of time. To make things official, she hands him a special item that proves his new status within the guild. However, Tanja quickly warns him about an important rule. Any adventurer caught pretending to possess strength beyond their real ability is immediately executed by the guild. Hearing that almost gives Asai a heart attack because he knows he is actually powerless compared to everyone else. Panicking, he rushes toward Maya and begs her to continue letting him appear as the strong one between them, since exposing the truth could literally get him killed. Maya agrees without hesitation, completely fine with letting her brother take the spotlight. Wanting to understand just how powerful she really is, Asai asks Maya to show him her stats. Unfortunately, Maya completely misunderstands what he means. Acting shamelessly playful, she assumes he is talking about her chest and immediately grabs it while proudly showing herself off like a carefree northern warrior. Completely embarrassed, Asai hurriedly explains that he was asking about her combat abilities instead. Once Maya finally reveals her actual status screen, Asai is left speechless because her numbers are overwhelmingly absurd compared to ordinary adventurers. Realizing how dangerous that could become, he immediately warns her never to reveal those stats to anyone else. While Maya continues teasing her brother without shame, a loud commotion suddenly echoes outside. After checking the source of the noise, they discover several elite adventurers arriving in town. The pawn shop owner explains that these individuals belong to the legendary Dragon class, one of the highest ranks in existence, and that they are preparing to challenge the Demon King himself. Soon afterward, a drunken adventurer starts causing chaos in the middle of the street. Since he possesses the same rank as Asai, the surrounding people insist that Asai should be the one to stop him. Completely nervous about the situation, Asai quietly asks Maya to help him deal with the problem. In exchange, he promises to grant any request she wants. Hearing that instantly fills Maya with excitement, and she eagerly accepts the offer without hesitation. Without showing even a little fear, Maya insults the drunk adventurer and calls him nothing more than a pathetic alcoholic who should crawl back home and drink milk from his mother. Her words instantly trigger the man's anger, causing him to charge straight toward Asai in a blind rage. Just before the attack reaches him, Asai suddenly swings his hand and a massive impact explodes in front of the man, splitting the ground apart with a gigantic crack. Pretending to remain calm, Asai claims that he intentionally missed the attack as a warning. He then coldly tells the drunk adventurer that the next strike will not spare him if he continues causing problems. Completely terrified after witnessing that display, the man immediately flees the area in panic, making Asai appear like an unstoppable hero in the eyes of everyone watching. Later on, Asai relaxes after realizing nobody noticed the truth about his weakness. Unfortunately for him, Maya quickly reminds him about the promise he made earlier. Since he agreed to grant any request she wanted, Maya happily jumps onto him and starts showering him with endless kisses while acting completely clingy toward her brother. Several days pass, and Asai proudly announces that he finally managed to defeat a slime by himself, which happens to be the weakest creature in the entire world. Meanwhile, Maya casually fires an enormous flame attack that instantly exterminates hundreds of slimes in one shot. Despite the massive difference between them, Maya still becomes genuinely excited over the fact that Asai defeated his very first monster on his own. In another part of the world, the demon from before is revealed to be Kilmaria. she effortlessly defeats the group of elite adventurers that had been traveling to confront the Demon King. However, Kilmaria is not an ordinary demon at all. She is actually one of the Demon King's 6 generals, and after crushing the adventurers so easily, she concludes that every human warrior she has encountered so far is disappointingly weak. The following morning, Asai decides to leave the house by himself so he can finally complete a mission without relying on Maya's overwhelming strength. Back at home, Maya realizes she can no longer sense her brother's presence inside the building, so she immediately checks his room. There, she discovers a letter he left behind. After noticing that the bed is still warm from his body heat, Maya happily curls up on it while missing him already. Meanwhile, Asai returns to the Adventurer Guild and asks Tanja for a mission suitable for his rank. Tanja explains that there are currently 2 beginner quests available for someone of his level: defeating a troll or retrieving a wyvern egg. Hearing those options nearly terrifies Asai because he knows he stands absolutely no chance against either task. Trying to avoid suspicion, he pretends to act humble and claims that even powerful adventurers should occasionally return to basic training to remain disciplined. Tanja becomes impressed by his attitude and instead assigns him a simple mushroom gathering quest. Relieved by the easy mission, Asai confidently believes nothing could possibly go wrong. After traveling for a while, Asai arrives at a forest filled with mushrooms and begins wondering why the mission seems ridiculously simple. However, he suddenly notices a warning sign nearby explaining that dangerous bears frequently roam the area. Unfortunately, the warning comes too late because a massive bear instantly appears behind him and begins chasing him through the forest. Just as the beast is about to catch him, dark flames suddenly crash into the creature. The explosion sends Asai flying backward until his face lands directly against the chest of a mysterious woman. For a brief moment, Asai mistakenly assumes the person who saved him is Maya. However, he quickly realizes that the woman standing before him is actually Kilmaria herself. Embarrassed, Asai immediately apologizes for accidentally falling onto her chest, while also thanking her for rescuing him. Before the conversation can continue, several more giant bears suddenly emerge from the forest. Without hesitation, Kilmaria throws Asai high into the air to keep him safe before instantly destroying every monster around them with overwhelming attacks. After eliminating the monsters, Kilmaria gently catches Asai in her arms once again. She casually explains that she purposely used him as bait because his presence attracted every bear in the forest, allowing her to test her abilities against them all at once. Before Asai can properly react to her explanation, the ground suddenly begins shaking violently. Moments later, a gigantic bear emperor erupts from beneath the earth. Enraged by the deaths of its followers, the creature roars that both of them will die for slaughtering its allies before immediately preparing a devastating attack. Seeing the fear on Asai's face, Kilmaria pulls him tightly against her chest and instantly surrounds them with an enormous magical barrier. The Bear Emperor unleashes its strongest attack, yet the shield remains completely untouched. The monster becomes horrified after realizing that its full power failed to even scratch her defense. In the next instant, Kilmaria shoots into the air, appears directly above the beast, and releases a powerful darkness spell that obliterates the Bear Emperor in a single strike. Watching everything unfold leaves Asai stunned because Kilmaria's strength appears comparable to Maya's overwhelming power. After introducing herself properly, Kilmaria reveals that she serves as one of the Demon King's generals. Hearing that immediately makes Asai nervous, but Kilmaria calmly reassures him that he has nothing to fear because she normally has no interest in weak individuals. Not long afterward, Kilmaria suddenly asks him whether he knows an adventurer named Asai. Terrified by the question, Asai quickly denies everything while awkwardly backing away from her. Unfortunately for him, his adventurer medal slips from his pocket and falls onto the ground. The badge clearly displays both his name and his ogre rank, causing Kilmaria to instantly realize his true identity, while Asai freezes in complete panic. The demon girl immediately changes her attitude and apologizes for previously calling him weak. However, instead of feeling relieved, Asai turns around and sprints away as fast as possible. Kilmaria quickly chases after him while shouting that she only wants to fight him and has no intention of harming him. Suddenly, a massive earth magic spell erupts from the ground and blocks Kilmaria's path entirely. At the same moment, Asai crashes directly into Maya's chest after she appears to protect him. The moment Maya sees Kilmaria, she instantly decides that she hates her. In her mind, the demon woman is obviously some dangerous pervert trying to seduce her innocent little brother. Maya even convinces herself that Kilmaria wants to steal Asai's virginity. Completely confused by the accusations, Kilmaria repeatedly explains that her only goal is to challenge Asai in battle. Unfortunately, Maya refuses to believe a single word she says. Growing irritated by the misunderstanding, Kilmaria finally activates a darkness spell and coldly warns Maya not to interfere with her business. She even threatens to kill her if she continues standing in the way. Those words instantly provoke Maya, causing both girls to unleash powerful attacks at the same time. Their magic collides head-on, creating a gigantic explosion that shakes the entire forest. For the first time in a very long while, both fighters become genuinely surprised. Maya and Kilmaria are both accustomed to defeating enemies instantly, yet neither of them can overpower the other. Realizing they have finally encountered someone equal to themselves, the two immediately begin exchanging countless devastating attacks across the battlefield. During the intense clash, Kilmaria eventually takes a direct hit from Maya's magic. At that moment, the demon finally understands that Maya possesses power comparable to a true demon general. For a brief second, Kilmaria even realizes she might actually lose the fight. Instead of discouraging her, however, that realization only excites her even more. She then creates a gigantic sphere of darkness, powerful enough to erase the entire forest from existence. Despite the terrifying attack, Maya calmly counters it with her own magic and completely neutralizes the darkness sphere. The impact deals massive damage to Kilmaria and sends the demon crashing to the ground in defeat. Accepting her loss, Kilmaria closes her eyes and tells Maya to finish her off with one final attack. Just as Maya prepares to strike, Asai suddenly steps between them and stops his sister from killing Kilmaria. This is because Kilmaria had previously saved him from several of the bears. Maya, still believing that the girl is a pervert who wants to steal his virginity, makes that very clear. However, Asai responds by saying that Maya is sometimes even worse because she has spent weeks trying to seduce him. After a long while, we see Maya deciding to spare Kilmaria's life, and the demon girl is left thinking about how amazing the two siblings are. On the other hand, Asai promises his sister that he will cook for her, which leaves Maya completely delighted. Shortly after, Asai informs his sister that Kilmaria was one of the Demon King's generals. However, Maya immediately begins pretending that she has run out of mana in order to take advantage of her little brother. After a long while, we see both siblings returning home, and Asai prepares a delicious dinner using the mushrooms he gathered. He also thinks that what should have been a simple mission ended up becoming a battle against one of the strongest demons. On the other hand, Asai makes fun of the names of his sister's abilities because compared to Kilmaria's skills, Maya's ability names make absolutely no sense. This makes Maya think deeply, and she admits that he is right. She refuses to let an exhibitionist girl like Kilmaria have cooler skill names than her. So in a very silly way, she begins coming up with new names that are even worse than the previous ones because she wants to add the word sister at the end of all her abilities. This leaves Asai extremely disappointed because he thought his sister was much smarter than he originally believed. After finishing dinner, Maya mentions that they are going to take a bath, but the extremely perverted girl tells Asai not to peek at her. Asai ignores her and heads to his room. After a long while, Maya comes out angry because Asai did not spy on her the way she secretly wanted him to. As the days pass, we see Asai going out to hunt goblins, but he ends up being chased by one instead. Asai throws a rock at it, but it does not lower its HP at all. After seeing that the goblin brought reinforcements, Maya appears and hits them with a powerful burst of flames. At that moment, Asai becomes happy that he has someone so strong helping him in that world. But as expected, Maya starts grabbing Asai's butt and tells him that she has never seen such a perfect creation before. At that moment, Maya jumps on him, and Asai starts thinking that he must do something to stop depending on her so much. Later that afternoon, we see Asai checking his stats and realizing that he is now level 10. Even so, he is still very weak, and he thinks that all the experience points from defeating monsters were never shared between them. Because of this, Maya tells him that he should attack her instead because if he defeats her, he could gain an enormous amount of experience. However, Asai tells her no, because he would never do something like that. At that moment, Asai realizes that he can learn an escape skill, so he quickly slips out of Maya's arms. This causes Maya to act like a wild beast, as she mentions that the more her prey escapes, the stronger her desire to catch it becomes. These words leave Asai completely terrified, and now he is more afraid than ever. At that moment, Maya rushes toward him, but because Asai runs out of magic, he is unable to escape, and the girl immediately jumps on him. After a long while, Asai heads to the Adventurer Guild to look for other missions. At that moment, he remembers that just like in any other world, he could form a team with other adventurers. Right then, Tanja arrives and mentions that he could join the group that once went to defeat the Demon King. However, she explains that they were forced to retreat because someone extremely powerful attacked them, clearly without knowing that it was actually Kilmaria herself. Shortly after, Asai leaves the guild and wonders what his sister would think if he joined their team. At that exact moment, Asai notices some bandits trying to rob a drunk man, so he throws several rocks to distract them and tells the man to run away. However, the man unexpectedly defeats all 3 bandits within seconds. The extremely drunk man then begins vomiting because of the amount of alcohol he drank, and Asai immediately recognizes him and realizes that he is the legendary Sigfreed, the hero who once went to defeat the Demon King. After a while, Asai gives him some water, and the man confirms that he really was the dragon rank hero who went to defeat the Demon King. However, because of the humiliation they suffered, people now call him Pochi the Dog. Sigfreed explains that when they went to defeat the Demon King, a maid defeated all of them with a single strike. Asai feels sympathy for him and mentions that it is terrifying that such a powerful opponent exists, someone capable of defeating all of them in one attack. Sigfreed tells him that he has now been defeated, lost all dignity, and spends every day drinking alcohol. In addition, he feels extremely disappointed because his parents gave him such a proud name, and now he feels that his name has lost all value after the humiliation he suffered when Kilmaria defeated him. Asai then tells him that Tanja recommended he join their team, but Sigfreed honestly explains what his team is really like. He says that one of his companions wastes all the mission money on many men because she is a complete pervert. Meanwhile, the elf Shuling is extremely arrogant because she is the oldest member of the group, being over 150 years old. Finally, there is Gordon, a knight whose face nobody has ever seen because of his poor communication skills. In short, Sigfreed tells Asai that his team is a complete disaster and does not recommend joining them. Even so, he also says that it would not matter anyway, because after being defeated by the Demon King's general, the team eventually disbanded. Asai understands this and tells him that at least they had each other for support. Sigfreed agrees and says that they truly were wonderful times while they lasted. At that moment, Asai says goodbye to him because he needs to return to the Adventurer Guild. This entire encounter leaves Sigfreed deep in thought, and he mentions that he used to be just like Asai. Because of this, he believes it is finally time to stop drinking alcohol, meaning that meeting Asai has once again given purpose to his life. On the other hand, Asai arrives at the guild, and Tanja becomes happy to see him because she tells him that they urgently need him due to the city being attacked by several wyverns. Because of this, she quickly places Asai into a carriage and they immediately head toward the location. After seeing the monsters, Asai is left completely shocked because he thinks that he is finally going to die. However, a huge explosion of darkness suddenly appears in the area, and we see Kilmaria defeating the monsters. She also becomes happy after seeing Asai because trouble always seems to follow him everywhere. The girl starts acting affectionately and tells him that he can call her big sister. This is because during their first meeting, Asai confused her with his sister. At that moment, the girl returns his adventurer badge because Asai accidentally left it behind the other day. Asai thanks her, but suddenly many more wyverns appear. Just when Kilmaria is about to defeat them, Maya appears and eliminates all of them with a single attack. At that moment, Kilmaria says that she came for revenge against Maya, but Maya completely ignores her and immediately walks toward her brother instead. Kilmaria is left totally shocked because she cannot believe she is being ignored. Maya confidently tells her that she did not even notice her presence in the area. The demon girl becomes angry at that moment, but Maya tells her that a pervert like her could never be with her brother. Kilmaria responds by saying that Maya has no right to say that when she also shows off too much. Both girls begin arguing again, and Maya makes it clear that she only fights people who threaten her brother. Because of this, Kilmaria jokingly kidnaps Asai in order to make Maya want to fight her. But as expected, Maya immediately punches her, so she will let go of her beloved brother. The two girls continue arguing once again, and suddenly a wyvern grabs Asai and carries him into the sky. This causes both girls to notice it, and without hesitation, Maya fires a beam at the monster. Right after that, Kilmaria catches Asai in the air and safely brings him back to the ground. Soon after, we see the two girls getting along much better, but Kilmaria once again tries to grab Asai. However, Asai uses his escape technique and slips away from the demon's arms. Maya tells Kilmaria that her brother has become much stronger, and Kilmaria becomes happy after seeing how beautiful the relationship between the two siblings is. Because of this, she decides to retreat for now and says goodbye to both of them. Asai notices that his sister looks very happy, so he confesses that she is the only person he truly needs in this world. These words cause Maya to completely misunderstand him, and she immediately jumps on him to give him a tight hug and lots of affection. However, Asai explains that he only meant forming a team together with her. In another scene, we see Tanja explaining that outside the city there is a mansion that once belonged to an old noble. However, people have been hearing strange noises there, and rumors say that a monster is living inside it. Because of this, Asai and his sister are sent there to investigate. After that, we return to an earlier moment when Asai arrived at the Adventurer Guild. Tanja quickly realized that he did not have any money, so Asai requested a mission that would pay a lot more. Tanja explains that she knows they have been staying at inns ever since arriving in the city, so she tells him that there is a mission that could completely change their lives in this world. She then reveals that the reward for the mission will be a house. However, Tanja makes it very clear to Asai that things will not be easy because he must do something that initially makes him extremely happy. At least his happiness only lasts for a few seconds because she immediately explains that he must perform an exorcism inside the noble's mansion that was mentioned earlier. That same night, we see both Asai and Maya preparing themselves to head toward the mansion. They specifically go at night because ghosts only appear after dark. While the two of them walk through a forest, Asai tries to act brave, but after suddenly falling and hearing thunder, he becomes frightened like a crying baby. After walking for a while, we return to the moment when both of them finally stand in front of the mansion. With a bit of fear, Asai tries to open the door, but a spirit suddenly appears and says that it absorbs life energy. Maya then approaches it because she possesses an enormous amount of energy, causing the spirit to completely disappear. This leaves Asai amazed by just how powerful his sister truly is. After entering the mansion, both of them become happy because although the house is a little dirty, it is fully furnished, making them think it could actually become a really good place to live. Maya, acting like a complete pervert, even mentions that if they live there alone, nobody will watch them and they could do naughty things together, leaving Asai completely traumatized. After becoming serious again, the two begin searching the mansion, but the spirit starts throwing objects at Asai, causing Maya to constantly give him healing potions. Later, he gets attacked by a furry creature and thinks that it felt much softer compared to the chairs and plates that were thrown at him earlier. So Maya takes out an extremely expensive potion and gives it to him. Asai scolds his sister because she wasted many expensive potions on him, but Maya responds by saying that she is simply worried about him. Right after that, Maya tells the spirit to stop being such a coward and reveal itself in front of them. At that moment, the monster finally reveals itself, and Asai immediately jumps onto his sister's large chest out of fear. This makes Maya happy because she believes that her brother is also a pervert, just like her. Spirit attacks them right away, but Maya easily blocks the attack. After realizing that Maya possesses power even greater than a demon general, the ghost decides that the best option is to take over her body. We then see the spirit use a special skill on her and successfully gain control of Maya. Asai becomes extremely nervous because he knows that if her power falls into the enemy's hands, it could mean the end of the kingdom since she could destroy everything completely. Asai attempts to use his escape skill, but it becomes completely useless because the possessed Maya instantly appears beside him. Asai becomes terrified because he knows the ghost is trying to kill him, so he screams his sister's name in an attempt to bring her back to her senses. At that moment, they are interrupted when Kilmaria suddenly appears at the mansion. She mentions that after a long search, she finally managed to find them both. Asai quickly explains the situation, and Kilmaria mocks the ghost by saying that such a pathetic spirit actually managed to possess Maya. Because of this, Kilmaria activates her dark flames, but Asai jumps toward her and begs her not to destroy the mansion. However, by accident, he grabs the girl's large chest like a complete pervert, causing her to blush instantly. Immediately after that, the spirit begins using all of Maya's power, so Kilmaria challenges her to a duel. She then throws a barrel toward her and declares that it is time to play an arm wrestling match. Asai is left completely confused, but we then see both girls begin the game, and Asai gets blown away by the overwhelming power they both possess. After several attempts, a small explosion is created in the area. However, Maya ends up becoming the winner of the match. Asai becomes nervous and says that none of this should even be possible. Suddenly, the ghost launches itself toward Asai, and he declares that he will not allow his sister to destroy everything because of it. Right after that, we see Asai's willpower purify Maya's body, causing the ghost to be forced out of her. As expected, Maya immediately starts hugging him like a complete pervert. After a long while, morning finally arrives, and Maya reveals that she was never truly being controlled by the monster, because even Kilmaria knew that such a weak spirit could never control her. Even so, Maya tells Asai that thanks to him she decided to force the spirit out, because his words touched her heart. After talking for a few more moments, both of them decide to return to the guild and report that they successfully exorcised the spirit. A few days later, we see them returning to the mansion in order to clean it, because from now on, both of them are the owners of their new home, and they know they will live happily there together as a family. As soon as they enter, Asai realizes that the mansion needs extremely deep cleaning because it had gone many years without maintenance due to the spirit haunting the place. Maya then begins cleaning the walls in a very suggestive position. Even Asai comments that he has never seen his sister like this before. Shortly after, while Maya is cleaning the floor with a cloth, Asai cannot stop staring at her chest moving from side to side, causing Maya to notice and leaving him frozen from embarrassment. At that moment, we are shown the earlier scene where Asai reported that he had exorcised the ghost. Tanja becomes completely amazed because no priest had ever managed to do it, yet Asai succeeded. Because of this, she immediately takes out a list of missions where he would need to defeat ghosts. This terrifies Asai so much that he instantly runs away because he has absolutely no intention of ever seeing another ghost again. After several days, we see Asai and Maya inside a dungeon because the Adventurer Guild sent Asai to investigate its sudden appearance. However, Asai accidentally activates a trap, causing a giant stone ball to roll directly toward them. Asai becomes terrified at that moment, but Maya destroys the stone with a single kick. Right after that, we return a few hours before they entered the dungeon. Tanja explains that Asai was assigned the mission of investigating whether the dungeon is too dangerous for adventurers. If he examines the place and discovers that it is not very dangerous, they may eventually open it to the public for all adventurers. Tanja also mentions that the dungeon was discovered after a small natural disaster occurred in the middle of the forest. At that moment, Asai remembers that Maya and Kilmaria previously fought there and created a massive explosion. But they both decide not to mention anything because Asai does not want to get into trouble. Finally, Tanja calls him a hero, which makes Asai extremely excited, so he immediately heads straight toward the dungeon. While Asai is walking toward the place, we see a monster secretly observing him. However, Maya suddenly appears hiding inside the bushes and scares the monster away because she secretly decided to follow Asai in order to protect him without him noticing. Or at least that is what Maya thought, because the moment Asai arrived at the dungeon entrance, she could not hold herself back anymore, and appeared right behind him. Both of them entered the place, and we see Maya scaring her brother with the skeleton of a creature because she finds it extremely adorable whenever her little brother gets frightened. At that moment, Maya asks what exactly a dungeon is because she is not as much of a geek as Asai. So, in a very excited way, Asai explains that dungeons are something adventurers completely love. Soon after, Asai activates a trap, and Maya barely manages to block the arrow that was heading toward him. However, he activates a third trap that causes Maya to fall into a pit filled with spikes. Even so, she barely avoids certain death thanks to her incredible abilities. After getting out of the pit, Asai becomes completely amazed by just how superhuman his sister really is. After walking a little farther, several armed skeletons suddenly appear in the area. Maya is about to use a powerful spell to defeat them all, but Asai immediately stops her and jumps on top of her, leaving the two of them in a very awkward position. Maya, acting like a complete pervert, tells him that a dark dungeon like that is perfect for two people who love each other. However, Asai suddenly becomes serious and tries to attack the monsters using his stone-throwing skill. Unfortunately, the monsters dodge the attack, so Maya rushes in and defeats all of them using only her physical strength. Once again, Asai is amazed because even without magic, Maya is unbelievably powerful. After walking a little more, they finally arrive at the boss area, but instead of a dangerous monster, several adorable little bears appear. At that moment, Asai thinks that perhaps the final boss was the Bear Emperor that Kilmaria previously defeated. Because of this, he believes that the best option is to report to the Adventurer Guild that the dungeon is unsafe, since the place could collapse and adventurers might end up killing the cute little bears living there. The two of them then leave the dungeon and begin heading back toward the Adventurer Guild. While Asai and Maya are talking, Maya once again starts acting overly affectionate with him, so Asai says that he is hungry and decides to head home. However, several monsters suddenly appear, and we see Asai barely manage to escape and return to the city alive. At that moment, a beautiful girl approaches him and asks for help because she claims to be lost. Asai immediately blushes because he thinks she is incredibly cute. However, he suddenly senses a strange pressure, so he uses his escape skill and realizes that she is actually a demon. The girl becomes surprised and reveals that she is Kilmaria. She is shocked that Asai can now sense her dark presence because she used magic to disguise herself as an ordinary villager. Asai asks why she is doing this, and Kilmaria simply replies that she is interested in learning more about humans. Because of this, Asai eventually agrees to take her on a tour around the city. After several hours of showing her different activities and ordinary parts of daily life in the city, they climb to the top of a building to look over the entire city together. At that moment, Kilmaria notices that Asai seems worried about his sister, so she proposes that he leave Maya and join her instead in order to become a demon because that would make him much stronger than he is now. Asai refuses because even though his sister is a little crazy, he still loves her in his own way. This causes Kilmaria to comment that humans are very strange creatures. After a long while, Asai heads toward the Adventurer Guild, and we see that Kilmaria keeps hugging his arm the entire time. This causes Tanja to become slightly annoyed. We can clearly see that Tanja's attitude has completely changed compared to before, so it is obvious that the girl is feeling very jealous. Tanja gives Asai his reward, but Kilmaria mocks her by sticking out her tongue and showing that she managed to get close to Asai first. At that moment, Asai suddenly becomes hungry, so both of them head out to eat a large amount of food. While Kilmaria enjoys the meal, Asai thinks that if everyone at the guild discovered that she is one of the Demon King's generals, they would instantly attack her without hesitation. After a long while, the two leave the place, and Kilmaria realizes that humans are actually very complicated beings. Right then, Sigfreed arrives and tells Asai that he is quite the ladies' man for always being surrounded by girls. Kilmaria greets him with a handshake, but Sigfreed immediately senses an overwhelming dark presence and asks who she really is. He suddenly begins feeling unwell, while Asai simply tells him that she is just a good friend, causing Sigfreed to leave shortly after. A little later, we see both of them arriving at the house, and Kilmaria tells Asai that she wants to prank Maya by pretending to be his new girlfriend. However, the moment they enter, Maya immediately punches Kilmaria because she knows that a demon like her cannot completely hide her power. Kilmaria becomes surprised by her rival's incredible detection abilities, while Asai gets upset and says that he wants everyone to get along peacefully. On the other hand, Maya explains that she spent the entire afternoon preparing a huge feast. However, Asai realizes that he already spent the whole afternoon eating with Kilmaria and is unsure if he can eat such a massive and delicious meal. Because of this, Kilmaria casts a spell on him that instantly makes him hungry again, and his stomach growls at that exact moment. Kilmaria confidently declares that it is time to eat, but Maya immediately hits her on the head because she refuses to let her eat together with them. After Maya calls her a cow and tells her to go eat in her own barn, Kilmaria throws herself onto the floor and starts crying like a spoiled baby. Asai feels a little sorry for her and tells Maya that the best thing they can do is allow her to stay and eat with them because she is learning about humans and became completely fascinated by Maya's cooking. Because of this, Maya finally gives in. Soon after, we see the group beginning to eat, and Asai praises his sister by saying that she is a wonderful little chef. Kilmaria hesitates for a moment before eating, but after tasting the food she becomes completely amazed by how delicious it is. However, her pride is far too great to fully admit that Maya cooked an incredible meal. Instead, she says that she will continue visiting so she can keep tasting her food and decide whether it truly is the best. In another scene, we see a priest giving his young daughter a staff and telling her that she must serve the great hero. We then see that same girl growing up and becoming a priestess who is now prepared to serve the great hero. However, at that moment, the identity of the hero is still not revealed. Back with Asai, we see him fighting against a wolf. He quickly defeats it, and Maya becomes extremely proud of her brother. However, we then see the leader of the wolf pack appear at that moment, and Maya immediately arrives and defeats it with an earth skill. We see the girl create a gigantic crater right in front of them, and Asai begins wondering if he might actually possess some kind of hero ability because he is tired of his sister always being the overwhelmingly strong one. At that instant, Maya notices that Asai has a small cut on his arm, so she happily tells him that he should drink a healing potion. Asai says that he is completely fine and that it is unnecessary, but his sister, acting like a total pervert, says that perhaps saliva could heal it instead. Because of this, she starts chasing him around to lick his wound, forcing Asai to escape using his skill. Asai teleports to another area where several rude adventurers tell him to move aside, and we then see him accidentally bump into the priestess we saw earlier. Asai thinks that she is very cute, so he immediately begins treating her kindly. We are also introduced to the girl named Sophie. Sophie remembers some words from her mother and thinks that the hero she would one day meet would be humble and kind to everyone. At that moment, she notices the cut on Asai's arm, so she uses healing magic and completely heals his wound. Asai becomes amazed, but they are interrupted when the rude group of adventurers tells the girl to hurry up and leave because the only thing she is useful for is healing them during battles. Asai thinks that a girl like her should not be with guys like them, and at that exact moment, Maya arrives and notices that his wound has already been healed. Asai explains that in this world there are people capable of healing others, but Maya only thinks that this basically means they are walking healing potion. Several hours later, we see Asai arriving at the Adventurer Guild, and Tanja urgently tells him that they need his help because the Black Brigade, which was Sophie's group, never returned after entering a dungeon. Not only that, but several other groups of adventurers also failed to return. This is because all of them were tempted by the treasures hidden inside the dungeon. After a while, we see Sophie emerging from the dungeon while completely terrified, saying that all of her companions were devoured. Suddenly, a giant plant traps the girl, and just as it is about to eat her, Asai and Maya appear and manage to save her. Sophie barely manages to see Asai before Maya completely exterminates all the monsters. After a long while, Sophie wakes up and realizes that all of her companions are unconscious beside her. At that moment, she remembers meeting Asai and wonders if he is actually the hero who saved them all. The girl becomes extremely excited and says that she has finally found the great hero her mother always talked about. Because of this, she decides that she must properly thank him, but first she needs to take a bath because she is completely covered in the monster's slime. In another scene, while Asai and Maya are talking about how they should have stayed to receive a reward, Sophie suddenly appears before them. At that moment, the girl thanks Asai and begins calling him a hero. She starts blushing and directly tells him that her mother trained her entire life to serve the great hero, so she asks to become part of their group. Asai tells her that he first needs to discuss it with his sister, causing Sophie to become excited as she immediately walks toward Maya. At that moment, Asai starts imagining the worst, because every girl who tries to get close to Maya usually ends up getting punched by her. However, because Sophie called Asai a hero and also finds him attractive, Maya immediately approves of her. At that moment, the Black Brigade arrives and starts scolding Sophie, telling her that they lost their reputation and rank because of her. However, the cute and adorable Sophie that Asai thought he knew suddenly reveals her true personality and begins insulting the group, calling all of them a trio of useless idiots. This makes the members of the Black Brigade furious, and they immediately prepare to fight. At that instant, Asai realizes that Sophie is actually a complete troublemaker. Maya then throws a smoke potion and beats up all the guys while also carrying Asai away with her. Once they are far away, Asai tells his sister that Sophie seems very different from what he expected, because he thought she would be very useful for them. Maya responds by saying that they do not need Sophie in the group because they already have her. She then starts showering Asai with affection again, leaving him completely confused. After a long while, Asai returns to the Adventurer Guild, and we see Tanja extremely angry with the Black Brigade because they complained about her sending help to save them. Tanja even says that next time she will just let all of them die. At that moment, Tanja tells Asai that she has another mission for him. Tanja becomes happy because of how humble Asai is, so she tells him that he could collect honey from killer bees. Asai thinks that the mission would be simple if Maya were with him, but at that moment, she is busy fighting Kilmaria to decide who is the better cook for Asai. Back with Asai, Tanja explains that if he had a healer with him, the mission would become much easier. Right then, Sophie appears and says that she can help him. Tanja immediately becomes jealous and says that she did not know he had already found himself a healer. After a long while, we see both Asai and Sophie heading out to gather the honey. Sophie heals Asai's poison status, while Asai uses his sword to defeat several of the monsters. After collecting the honey, Sophie tells him that his fighting style is rather strange. However, in order to hide the truth, Asai says that he was not using his full strength because he does not want to damage the forest ecosystem, since that would be a beginner's mistake. For some reason, these words completely convince Sophie, causing her to admire him once again. Shortly after defeating several bees, Sophie mentions that they already collected 10 jars and are halfway finished. She then tells Asai that she is going to do something quickly and asks him to wait there. Just a few seconds later, Sophie comes running back at full speed because she gathered the rest of the bees together so that Asai could defeat all of them in a single attack. Asai begins running as well and thinks that if he does not do something now, Sophie will discover that he is actually a weak coward. Suddenly, Sophie trips and falls, and Asai realizes that he must show courage and defeat all the bees. He stands in front of them, and just as he is about to charge into battle, a gigantic rock suddenly crashes down on top of all the monsters. Without understanding what just happened, Asai starts receiving praise from Sophie, who believes that he used earth magic to eliminate all the bees. Sophie then tells Asai that she will carry the honey herself because she needs him to recover his strength. At that exact moment, Maya and Kilmaria arrive. They explain that they ended up there because they were training together, and that Giant Rock was simply part of their training. The girls tell Asai that it is time to return home and eat. After several hours, we see Sophie claiming the reward for defeating the killer bees, but because Asai never arrived, she stayed there waiting for him. The following day, Asai heads to the Adventurer Guild and meets Tanja. As soon as he arrives, he discovers that Sophie spent the entire night waiting for him, because her admiration for Asai is so great that she did not mind waiting there until morning. Right after that, we are shown a small flashback from their previous world where Maya jumped in front of Asai to protect him from a dog that wanted to bite them. Asai became extremely frightened, but it turned out that the dog only wanted to play with Maya. At that moment, the owner arrived and called the dog back. Asai then started crying because he realized that he could not protect his little sister, even though he always wanted to become a hero. Back in the present, Tanja explains that the Demon King's monsters are currently attacking a village. We then see the demons destroying everything in their path inside the village, while one of the villagers says that he knows Asai possesses the spirit of a true hero. On the other hand, we see a Cyclops who introduces himself as one of the Demon King's generals, getting defeated by a single punch from Maya. This causes the remaining demons to run away in fear after witnessing the girl's overwhelming power. However, several small creatures remain behind, and Asai mentions that he will defeat them because they look completely defenseless. But just as the creatures begin performing a strange dance, Asai suddenly starts feeling very strange. Unexpectedly, Asai jumps onto his sister's chest and tells her that he loves her very much. This leaves Maya completely crazy with excitement because she thinks that her wishes have finally come true. She immediately jumps onto Asai, but he regains consciousness after hitting the ground. Unfortunately, it is already too late because Maya excitedly tells him that it is finally time to cross the line and moves closer to kiss him. This forces Asai to stop her, leaving Maya completely disappointed. At that moment, Asai realizes that the creatures were responsible for hypnotizing him, so he decides that it is time to eliminate them, and rushes toward them to attack. However, Maya, after seeing how adorable the creatures are, decides to protect them instead. She even threatens them and says that if they want to continue living, they must dance again and hypnotize her brother one more time. The creatures, completely terrified, begin dancing again, causing Asai to fall into the same trance once more. Asai suddenly becomes extremely affectionate toward his sister, and Maya cannot handle his sweet words anymore, so she hits him on the head again. Because of this, Asai gets hypnotized for a third time and tells Maya that he now loves her so much that he wants to marry her. These words cause Maya to start imagining countless things in her mind. She even cries tears of happiness inside her thoughts because of how excited she is. However, her fantasies are interrupted when another giant cyclops suddenly falls into the area. The monster introduces himself as the servant of the Demon King's general that Maya defeated earlier. Maya becomes annoyed because the monster interrupted her romantic moment. Just as the Cyclops is about to strike Asai, Maya immediately stops the attack and destroys the monster in midair with one powerful punch. Maya then declares that anyone who dares to mock or hurt Asai will have to deal with her. At that moment, Asai starts crying because he says that once again he failed to protect her. First, he could not protect her from the dog in the past, and now for a second time he could not defend her against this demon. Maya gently comforts him and gives him encouraging words to make him feel much better. She tells him that she loves him for who he is because he always tries to help people who are in trouble. These words motivate Asai, and he declares that he will become much stronger from now on so that he can protect her. But at that exact moment, a rock suddenly falls onto Asai's head, leaving Maya completely disappointed. She once again asks the creatures to dance and hypnotize her brother again, but then realizes that they are already gone because the attack against the Cyclops accidentally killed them. This leaves Maya completely heartbroken because she knows that Asai will no longer act affectionately toward her again. Maya then tries performing a dance herself in order to hypnotize Asai, but she only ends up embarrassing herself in front of him. As they begin heading back home, Maya asks her brother if he could tell her that he loves her one last time. Asai becomes completely confused by her words. Seeing that Maya looks sad without understanding everything that happened, Asai gives her comforting words that make her feel much better, causing her to hug him tightly and shower him with affection once again. The following day, we see Asai arriving at the Adventurer Guild to look for Tanja. However, some of her co-workers tell him that today is her day off, and that she even has a date with someone. While Asai walks through the streets, he suddenly feels a strange sensation, almost as if he is jealous, and he eventually runs into Tanja, whom he barely recognizes at first because of how beautiful she looks without her work uniform. We soon discover that Tanja's date was actually with her little brother because they were going shopping together. However, the boy becomes extremely shy in front of Asai. Tanja explains that her brother always talks about the great adventurers at the guild, because despite his shyness, he loves adventures and powerful people who defeat monsters. Asai introduces himself by name, and the boy immediately loses all of his shyness because he tells Asai that his sister constantly talks about him and how amazing he is. This embarrasses Tanja a lot because she did not want her little brother to expose the fact that she always talks about Asai. Because of this, she instantly silences her brother. Tanja then explains that she was heading to the guild to request an escort to the neighboring city, but her little brother tells her that she could simply ask Asai because an ogre-class adventurer is basically equal to an entire army. Asai becomes extremely nervous because if any monster appears and Tanja discovers how weak he really is, he could be executed for faking his strength. Even so, Asai eventually accepts because Tanja's little brother personally asked him. After several hours, we see the three of them traveling together in a carriage, while Asai thinks that monsters normally avoid roads built by humans. At one point, Asai asks the boy something, causing him to become very nervous, but they are suddenly interrupted when a giant monster appears on the road. Asai immediately panics because the creature could kill all of them. The monster attacks at that moment, and the owner of the carriage instantly runs away, leaving Asai alone with Tanja and her brother against the monster. At that moment, Asai tries to act brave and attacks the monster twice, but his attacks do absolutely no damage. The monster then prepares a second attack when a huge explosion suddenly appears in the area. Tanja and her little brother become completely amazed because they believe that Asai was responsible for defeating the monster. The boy becomes sad because he was very frightened, but Asai tells him that when he was that age, he was also a crying baby. Because of this, Asai encourages him to keep trying because one day he will definitely become strong enough to protect his sister. Tanja also thanks Asai for saving them. Soon after, the three continue standing there when Maya suddenly appears on top of the defeated monster because it had tried attacking them once again. Maya explains that it is better for things to stay this way because she prefers for Asai to continue maintaining his reputation as a hero. She then thinks about preparing a special meal later that night to celebrate. Several days later, we see Asai walking together with Maya and Kilmaria. The girls mention that they just returned from a very exhausting mission. At that moment, Asai realizes that he gained several levels and has now reached level 20. He also notices that he unlocked a new skill and discovers that he possesses an affinity for light magic. At that moment, a giant bull suddenly arrives at the village, and Asai says that everyone should leave it to him so he can test his new ability. The moment he unlocks the skill, he feels magic flowing throughout his entire body. However, after activating it, all he creates is a bright flash of light that leaves everyone completely confused. After a long while, we see Asai crying because his level 1 light magic is completely useless since it does nothing except light up the area. On the other hand, the group arrives at a part of the city that looks extremely ruined and gloomy because they must complete a mission there. Once they arrive, Asai explains that the mission is to eliminate an evil group belonging to a dangerous clan. They also mention that the clan is called Dark Crisis, and Asai finds the name extremely funny. Right then, two men appear and try to intimidate Asai, but the girls immediately beat them up. At that moment, Asai remembers Tanja's words because she previously explained that this clan forges fake adventurer seals regarding their ranks. This makes Asai feel a little hurt, because he himself also faked his real rank. Tanja had also explained that the mission was assigned by a noble family that sponsors the Adventurer Guild, because corruption inside the city is not beneficial for anyone. It was at that moment that Asai accepted the mission. Back in the present, while Asai remembers all of this, the girls finish defeating all the criminals. At that moment, the leader of the Dark Crisis clan appears completely terrified after seeing all his allies defeated. He realizes that the Adventurer Guild sent them to eliminate the entire group. The man declares that he is also an ogre rank adventurer just like Asai, and he tries to intimidate him by launching an electric attack. However, because the group barely reacts, the man begins feeling afraid. At that moment, Asai hears a very familiar voice, and Sophie suddenly appears there. She explains that she came to help him, and also says that she brought many people so they could witness Asai's great achievement. Asai realizes that his sister cannot completely help him in this situation, meaning that he will have to fight the man himself. At that instant, the bandit charges toward Asai with a powerful attack, but Asai is much faster and successfully dodges it. At that exact moment, Maya simply glances at the sword lying on the ground and instantly shatters it, giving Asai the perfect chance to rush toward the man and defeat him with a single strike. This leaves everyone completely amazed after finally seeing Asai fight in person. While Maya immediately jumps toward Asai to shower her little brother with affection, Kilmaria watches the scene and thinks that everything about it is incredibly pathetic. In a parallel scene, we see several high-ranking female adventurers defeating another clan that was doing the exact same thing as Dark Crisis. We then see two girls and a blonde woman successfully defeating multiple enemies. The blonde girl successfully defeats the leader of the clan called Overdose. The blonde girl named Gloria, who is accompanied by her servant Kuan, begins talking about Asai because they heard that he was responsible for defeating the other clan that was carrying out illegal activities. In the end, Gloria thinks that Asai's rapid rise in rank is very suspicious, so she believes the best way to test him is through a duel against her. Back with Asai, we see that the village which had been attacked before invited him back in order to hold a banquet for helping them the other day. However, the elder of the village apologizes to Asai because the real reason they called him back is that the Demon King's monsters have started attacking the village again. Asai immediately becomes nervous because Maya did not come with him since she believed he was only going there for work. Suddenly, someone arrives to warn them that the monsters have already appeared. Asai becomes terrified after seeing the huge number of creatures that arrived. He tries fighting one of the orcs, but he quickly gets hit. At that exact moment, Asai notices one of the villagers about to be killed, when Gloria suddenly appears and defeats the monsters in a single second. We then see Gloria arrive at the battlefield, while thinking that although she wants to see Asai fight seriously, she cannot simply stand there and watch innocent people die. Asai becomes amazed because it is the first time he has ever seen a noble swordswoman helping defend a village from monsters. Gloria immediately heads toward the strongest monster there and slices it in half with a single strike. Right after that, Gloria approaches Asai and tells him that after seeing his performance earlier, she now knows that he falsified his true rank. At that moment, a little girl from the village arrives to defend her hero, and Gloria thinks it is cruel that Asai deceived such an innocent child. Unexpectedly, Kuon senses something strange and instantly pushes Gloria away because a powerful slash suddenly appears in the ground directly in front of Asai. Gloria becomes completely nervous because she believes that Asai had been hiding his true power all along. However, Asai is actually covering his eyes because he accidentally saw Gloria's underwear. This makes Gloria extremely angry, and she immediately declares that they will have a duel so he can prove his true strength. All of this happens while Maya secretly watches everything from a distance. Several days later, the day of the duel finally arrives, and Asai feels extremely frustrated because he knows he will be fighting someone very strong. Even Sigfreed had warned him that Gloria is a golem rank adventurer and the daughter of the guild's biggest sponsor. At that moment, Maya tells Asai that he can trust her because she will remain hidden somewhere nobody can see her, so she can secretly help him with her strength. Soon after, Gloria and Asai arrive at the battlefield while everyone around them becomes excited to watch the duel. Meanwhile, Kilmaria and Maya are sitting together in a viewing area, saying that if necessary they will help Asai. At that exact moment, Kuon arrives there, and Maya becomes surprised after realizing that Gloria's servant came specifically to observe them. Right then, Gloria charges toward Asai, and he successfully dodges every single one of her attacks. The explosions immediately make Kilmaria nervous, and she says that she needs to help Asai. However, because Kuon prepares herself to fight, Kilmaria activates her dark magic and declares that a mere servant like her should not even think about fighting against someone like her. At the same time, Maya calms Kilmaria down and tells her to simply watch Asai's battle. Meanwhile, Asai continues dodging all of Gloria's attacks before finally taking a defensive stance. This causes Gloria to believe that he is about to use the same attack from before, so she leaps into the air to finish him off. At that exact moment, Asai suddenly remembers his light magic. He immediately activates it, creating a flash that completely blinds Gloria for several seconds. Unable to see anything, Gloria falls to her knees while Asai places his sword in front of her and calmly says that the fight is over. This leaves everyone completely shocked because Asai defeated Gloria without even needing to swing his sword. Gloria, still confused, asks him why he did not attack her, and Asai responds like a true gentleman by saying that he would never raise his sword against a lady. Those words instantly strike Gloria's heart because she had never heard anyone say something so kind before. The girl immediately blushes deeply, accepts her defeat, and runs away from the battlefield in total embarrassment. Several days later, we see a completely drunk Kilmaria bothering Asai. Asai explains that he has an important mission to complete together with Maya. Maya then asks the demon girl to clean the house and stop drinking so much while they are away. Soon after, Maya and Asai walk through the city while discussing how they need to find certain flowers in the forest. At that moment, Asai hears a familiar voice, and Sophie suddenly appears before them. She explains that Tanja was the one who told her about the mission, so she offered to help because she is very skilled at finding things. Sophie then begins saying a few strange words, and suddenly her staff falls to the ground. She confidently claims that the direction where it fell must be the correct path. Asai immediately becomes annoyed because he realizes that she is simply leaving everything to luck. After traveling deeper into the forest, the group reaches a point where there are two different paths, and nobody knows which direction to take. Because of this, Asai suggests splitting up and tells Maya to take Sophie with her because he knows that whenever Sophie is around him, trouble always follows. Maya accepts the idea and the group immediately separates. However, Asai is suddenly attacked by two goblins, but Kilmaria instantly appears and defeats both monsters. The girl explains that even though she tried hiding her presence, Maya still noticed that she was nearby. Asai finally understands why Maya allowed him to travel alone, because she already knew that Kilmaria would secretly protect him. Kilmaria also mentions that the first time they met was inside a forest very similar to this one, bringing back pleasant memories for her. She comments that compared to before, she has changed a lot ever since meeting both Asai and Maya. Asai cannot understand how one of the Demon King's generals could say such things, but Kilmaria simply replies that she chooses to live her life however she wants. At that moment, Asai suddenly hears a scream and immediately rushes toward the source of the sound. When he arrives, he is shocked to discover several dead villagers. He also notices a necromancer, a being capable of magically controlling the souls of the dead. The monster summons several skeletons, but Asai destroys them instantly. Taking advantage of the situation, the necromancer begins trying to suck out Asai's soul. However, Kilmaria immediately arrives and sends the monster flying away with a single punch. At that moment, the monster apologizes for being inside Kilmaria's territory because he actually serves another general of the Demon King. He even tells Kilmaria that they should go together and conquer the remaining villages. However, Asai becomes angry and tells the monster that even though Kilmaria is an alcoholic who drinks all the time, she is actually a very good person. These words make Kilmaria blush heavily, while the necromancer tells her that the best option would be to eliminate Asai. Kilmaria immediately becomes furious and declares that a mere servant like him has no right to tell a demon general what to do. She then activates one of her abilities and kills the necromancer with a single strike. Soon after, the souls stolen by the necromancer begin returning to the bodies of the villagers. Both Asai and Kilmaria become happy after seeing this, and they decide that the best thing to do now is return to Sophie and Maya. Shortly after, they reunite with the girls, and we see that Sophie and Maya successfully found the golden flower. Asai becomes very happy, while Maya explains that they managed to find the flower while talking about Asai's childhood. The next day, while Gloria is sleeping, Kuon suddenly arrives and wakes her up in a very aggressive way. Kuon scolds Gloria and tells her that she should not sleep so peacefully. However, Gloria replies that the reason she can rest so calmly is because she knows Kuon is always there to protect her. After spending a long time getting ready, Gloria mentions that she plans to carry out a certain strategy, although the details are not revealed yet. Back with Asai, we see him arriving at the Adventurer Guild, where Tanja congratulates him for obtaining the flowers and defeating the necromancer. She even tells him that he is very close to reaching golem rank. Asai becomes disappointed because he is gaining too much popularity and his rank is getting farther and farther away from his true strength. After leaving the guild, Asai notices Gloria standing in the distance. She pretends as if she was not actually waiting for him. Gloria becomes nervous, while Asai tells her that he remembers her perfectly because it would be impossible to forget what happened between them. These words make Gloria extremely nervous, causing her to blush deeply as she calls for Kuon to come protect her because it seems that Asai completely captured her heart during their last duel. Meanwhile, Asai foolishly believes that Gloria is only approaching him because she still doubts his rank. When Kuon almost reveals that Gloria is actually in love with him, Gloria quickly interrupts and claims that she only followed him to confirm his true strength. She then tells Asai that she wants him to accompany them on a mission so she can properly evaluate his abilities. After walking for a while, we see everyone arriving at the Forest of Confusion, while Kuon secretly talks with Gloria. Kuon reveals Gloria's plan, explaining that her original idea was to invite Asai to have tea together. However, Gloria believes that there is nothing more romantic than walking together through a forest. Kuon agrees with her, but she also explains that a forest like this is not romantic at all because it is filled with dangerous monsters. At that moment, Kuon recommends that Gloria hold Asai's hand and hug him while pretending to be scared. However, because Gloria accidentally uses too much strength, she unintentionally beats up Asai instead. After walking a little farther, Asai tells Gloria that he understands Kuon very well because she is always following her around. He then says that his own situation is similar because both Maya and Kilmaria possess extremely terrifying auras. Gloria notices how well the two of them get along and immediately becomes very jealous. After a long walk, the group arrives at a place covered in overwhelming darkness and discovers many adventurers trapped inside giant vines. Suddenly, a demon monster shaped like a tree appears, and the group immediately splits up. Both Asai and Gloria decide to go after the monster together. However, after Asai says something that Gloria mistakenly interprets as a marriage proposal, the monster captures her. She is unable to free herself, but after realizing that both Asai and Kuon can see her underwear because of the awkward position she is trapped in, Gloria frees herself out of embarrassment and destroys the monster instantly. After saving the trapped adventurers, the group returns to the city. Asai says goodbye to the girls, and Kuon tells Gloria that Asai probably will not forget them because he had a good time together with both of them. She also mentions that he saw all of Gloria's underwear beneath her skirt. These words leave Gloria completely horrified because she does not want Asai to remember her that way. A few days later, we see Asai waking up and becoming shocked after seeing Kuon standing right in front of him. Kuon explains that Maya allowed her to wake him up because she came to ask him for a favor. After a long while, we see Asai carrying several moving boxes, because that was the favor Kuon requested. The reason for this is that Gloria is moving once again. Soon after, Gloria arrives while several maids attempt to stop her. Gloria immediately sends them flying away with a powerful strike. Right after that, the butler Sebastian appears and tells Gloria that she should not make reckless decisions so casually. However, because Gloria starts acting rebellious, Sebastian uses special threads to restrain her. Even so, Gloria's strength is almost like that of a gorilla because she immediately sends Sebastian flying through the air. Sebastian tells her that he only wants her to behave properly because she is a noble lady. But Gloria does not care about anything he says and immediately leaves together with Kuon and Asai. After traveling by carriage for a while, we see the group finally arriving at the countryside mansion belonging to Gloria's family. Asai becomes very impressed, but he understands that it is normal considering Gloria's noble status. While unloading the luggage, Gloria begins imagining how happy both of them could be living together inside the mansion. In another scene, we see Sebastian meeting with an adventurer named Taiga, who possesses dragon rank. Sebastian believes that Asai is trying to steal away the precious Gloria. However, at that exact moment, Maya suddenly appears behind them, and her terrifying aura alone causes both men to run away like complete cowards. Kuon, who is secretly watching all three of them, thinks that Maya is far too overprotective of Asai. Back with Asai, we see that he has become a little chubby because Gloria keeps serving him an absurd amount of tea and snacks. Clearly, all of this is Gloria's fault. Soon after, Kuon arrives, and Gloria tells her that she needs to find some excuse to make Asai continue visiting her because she does not know how to keep the boy she likes close to her. Kuon then suggests that Gloria create a guild or clan together with Asai at her mansion. Several hours later, we see Asai having lunch with Tanja. Asai asks whether forming a clan is difficult, but Tanja explains that it is actually very simple because all he needs are several members and a name, just like the group Sigfreed used to have. After finishing lunch, the two go out for a walk, and Sophie suddenly joins them. She overheard their entire conversation and immediately tells Asai that she also wants to become part of the clan. After showing Asai her stats screen, he has no choice but to accept because her stats are even higher than his own. At that moment, both girls ask Asai to show them his stats as well. However, because he does not want them to discover that he is actually weak, he cleverly avoids the request by saying that it would not be proper for them to look at something so personal. Surprisingly, both girls are convinced by his explanation. Right then, Gloria and Kuon suddenly appear before them. However, Gloria immediately notices that Sophie is holding on to Asai's arm. Seeing this makes Gloria instantly leave because she cannot handle the jealousy of seeing him together with another girl. At that moment, Kuon tries to cover up Gloria's feelings by saying that Gloria does not have many friends and would appreciate it if Asai formed the clan and helped her. Because of this, Asai eventually agrees since he would also like to become Gloria's friend. Later that night, while Maya prepares dinner, Asai starts thinking about who his allies would be if he really formed a clan. However, he knows that the more people who see him, the easier it will be for someone to discover the truth about how weak he really is. Asai tells Maya that she is actually the true protagonist because she is the one with all her abilities completely maxed out. However, Maya comforts him and tells him that he is the real protagonist because he was the one responsible for saving Kilmaria. She also reminds him that he insisted on saving Sophie and even became friends with Kuon and Gloria. Maya also points out that Asai defeated Gloria fairly without even needing Maya's powers. Hearing these words makes Asai cry tears of happiness because he has not felt this appreciated in a very long time. Several days later, Maya tells Asai that the girls officially decided to form a clan together. However, during one of their missions, they lowered their guard and a basilisk turned Asai into stone. Because of this, everyone starts searching for a way to cure him. Even while petrified, Asai still remains conscious, and he becomes extremely nervous after realizing that Maya wants to completely pamper him. She even places his stone body on her bed while imagining doing all sorts of things with him. Several hours later, the girls return and tell Maya that they were unable to find any potion capable of reversing petrification. Because of this, they suggest that maybe a hot bath could help him recover. Soon after, the girls begin undressing in front of Asai, leaving him completely panicked because despite being turned to stone, he can still see and hear everything they are saying. During the entire bath, Asai ends up seeing every single one of the girls completely naked. After the bath ends, Maya carries Asai out, while he thinks to himself that what he just witnessed completely destroyed his innocence. While the girls are drying themselves off, one of them suggests that maybe kissing Asai could cure him just like in the movies. However, the moment she tries, Kilmaria immediately punches her. The two girls begin arguing, and Kilmaria explains that a kiss would never cure petrification. Unexpectedly, Kilmaria then declares that she will heal him herself and uses high-level magic to instantly remove the petrification from Asai. Asai immediately sits down on the floor, and Kilmaria, acting like a complete pervert, leans toward him and presses her large chest close to his face. She then tells Maya that Asai was fully conscious the entire time. Asai confirms this and explains that it was never his intention to see all of them naked. Maya then says that she will be right back because she is going to get towels for the other girls. However, once she reaches her room, she becomes completely embarrassed after realizing that Asai had seen her completely naked, something that had never happened to her before. The next day, we see Asai arriving at the Adventurer Guild together with all of his new companions. Tanja immediately gives him the registration form for their new clan. The group starts thinking about a name, and the girls decide that Asai should choose it since he is the leader. However, the girls get so close to him that Asai starts blushing after remembering what happened the previous night. Because of this, Maya ends up choosing the name herself and calls the clan Super Legion Asai, leaving Asai completely shocked by how terrible the name sounds. In another scene, we see two boys at the beach getting attacked by a very strange shark because its body looks completely unnatural. Back with Asai, we see him at the Adventurer Guild together with Maya, while Tanja assigns them a mission to eliminate the sharks because there have been several incidents where sea creatures attacked and killed people. This excites Asai a lot because for some reason he is a huge fan of fishing and things related to the ocean. Maya also becomes excited because she starts imagining the two of them applying sunscreen together and doing other romantic things, but Asai immediately tells her to stop acting so perverted around him. Several hours later, the group arrives at the beach, but Maya is not happy at all because all the other girls came along as well. Kuan then tells everyone that she has both good news and bad news. Asai asks her to start with the bad news, and she reveals that Gloria and Kuan already defeated all the sharks before everyone else arrived. Because of this, the good news is that they now have free time and can simply relax, swim, and enjoy the day at the beach. However, Kuan explains that since nobody had proper clothes for the beach, she personally made swimsuits for everyone. Soon after, we see several of the girls wearing school-style swimsuits from Asai's old world. Meanwhile, Gloria wears a bikini specially designed by Kuan because the maid intentionally chose the sexiest outfit possible, so Asai would only pay attention to Gloria. Unexpectedly, Kilmaria then arrives wearing an extremely revealing and seductive swimsuit. This instantly angers Maya, who believes that Kilmaria is a complete exhibitionist. Gloria also feels a little depressed because she believes she could never compete against the demon girl's body. In the end, the girls force Kilmaria to wear a different bikini instead. After a long while, Gloria announces that it is time to begin a volleyball tournament along with several other beach games. Without even asking Asai for permission, she declares that the winner will be allowed to request absolutely anything from him. Asai becomes completely terrified because all four girls are total perverts who want to do all sorts of things to him. Because of this, the girls spend a long time competing against each other in different games. In the end, Maya wins every single competition, leaving all the other girls completely disappointed. A little later, Maya asks Asai to apply sunscreen to her back. She also explains that once she learned Asai himself would be the prize, there was no way she would allow herself to lose against the other girls. At that moment, Tanja and Sophie suddenly become surrounded by several sharks. Asai and Maya immediately rush toward them and discover the appearance of the 10 Kings of the Sea, which are powerful sharks with different elemental abilities. However, Maya defeats them with her attacks. Meanwhile, Asai ends up fighting against a ghost shark, but his light magic successfully destroys it. Finally, Huan and Gloria perform a combined attack to finish off the remaining creatures. However, one hidden shark suddenly attacks Maya from behind. Seeing this, Asai immediately throws himself forward to take the attack for her. At that exact moment, he falls directly into the whirlpool created by the girl's attacks. As Asai sinks deeper into the ocean, Maya immediately jumps in after him to rescue him. Several hours later, Asai finally wakes up, and Maya becomes extremely relieved after seeing that he is safe and unharmed. Maya also explains that while Asai was unconscious, she explored the area and discovered that they were stranded on a deserted island. Because of this, Asai tells her that they should wait until Kilmaria senses their aura. Until their friend arrives to rescue them, they will need to gather as many supplies as possible. For the rest of the day, the two of them focus on building a small shelter, searching for water, and catching fish. After spending such a productive day together, they eventually lie down while watching the sunset by the beach. The two begin talking about how wonderful it has been meeting all the girls in this world, because at the beginning it was only the two of them. Now, they have an entire clan filled with powerful members. Asai agrees with her and adds that when he first arrived in this new world, he was terrified because he did not even have a single skill, and even a simple rabbit could have killed him back then. At that moment, Asai thanks Maya for always staying by his side and protecting him all this time. These words deeply move Maya, causing her to cry tears of happiness instantly. Finally, when Asai mentions that he feels very cold, Maya immediately jumps onto him so she can warm him up with her body. However, at that exact moment, they are interrupted by the appearance of the great king of the 10 Sea Kings. Maya becomes annoyed because she thinks those monsters are incredibly troublesome. Suddenly, a huge explosion of dark magic appears, and Kilmaria arrives together with the rest of the girls to attack the monster. The girls even start teasing Asai because the monster apparently heard all the cheesy things he was saying to his sister. Embarrassed, Asai quickly says that they did not even kiss or anything like that. The group is then interrupted when the King of the Seas becomes furious and declares that he will destroy all of them. We then see him summon the 10 Sea Kings once again. Like the Knights of the Zodiac, the monsters begin fusing together with the Great King. After several moments of transformation, the creature evolves into an enormous and terrifying monster. Asai starts trembling in fear after seeing how overwhelming the creature looks. However, Maya suddenly walks directly toward the monster and uses a powerful skill that splits the entire sea apart where the creature is standing. Even Kilmaria becomes frightened after witnessing Maya's overwhelming power. Maya, now completely furious, declares that she is tired of everyone interrupting the precious moment she was sharing with her brother. She then charges up an enormous fireball and launches it directly at the monster. The attack creates a gigantic explosion across the entire island, leaving all the girls completely shocked, including Kilmaria herself. After a long while, Kilmaria starts arguing with Maya because they were never truly in danger to begin with. However, Maya openly admits that she only did all of this because she wanted to be alone with Asai. Several hours later, the group finally returns home while Maya looks completely bored. She then takes out several games and says that everyone can stay entertained while they wait for the rain to stop. Meanwhile, outside the house, we see that a very strange slime has appeared around Asai without the others noticing the monster's presence. At that moment, the girls look at the rain and think that it might be nice to go outside because they could stay close together under the same umbrella. However, since both girls start getting overly excited, Asai quickly uses his escape ability, which almost causes the two girls to accidentally kiss each other instead. In another scene, we see a mysterious person standing inside one of the city's towers. The following day, Asai notices that the weather has become nice again, so everyone heads outside to enjoy the beautiful day. However, they soon discover that their entire yard has been flooded. The moment Asai steps into the water, something suddenly attacks him. After being rescued and using his escape skill, everyone decides that the best option is to move toward higher ground. While they are heading somewhere else, Asai hears Tanja being attacked by the mysterious creature. After rescuing her, Tanja explains that she once heard about a similar incident in the past. At first, people believed it was simply a flood, but it eventually turned out to be a slime monster. The creature feeds on water, and because it rained heavily the previous day, the slime managed to spread throughout the entire city. The girls immediately leave to search for whoever is responsible, while Asai tells Tanja that they first need to find her little brother because he went out very early in the morning. Soon after, Tanja arrives together with several adventurers, and we see someone creating strange symbols in the sky. A portal suddenly opens above the city, releasing multiple monsters. However, the adventurers immediately destroy both the monsters and the portal. Meanwhile, the floodwaters continue spreading through the city, and we discover that a girl inside a tower is actually responsible for everything. She also opened portals that released monsters to attack the citizen. At the same time, Tanja's younger brother is shown injured while protecting his little sister when Asai suddenly appears before them. They immediately begin running toward higher ground, but giant water serpents suddenly form around them. One of the men who had previously been defeated by Asai destroys one of the serpents. Just as the second serpent is about to attack them, Sigfreed suddenly appears and protects all four of them. Sigfreed explains that they must destroy the slime's core in order to completely defeat it. Right after that, another water serpent appears, and Sigfreed tells Asai to take the children to the cathedral before searching for the slime's core afterward. Asai immediately listens to his advice and begins running toward the cathedral. At that moment, Sigfreed and the other adventurer stayed behind to fight against the giant water serpents that continued appearing everywhere. In another scene, we see Tanja and several adventurers trying to enter the mansion of one of the nobles. However, the nobles refuse to open the gates, making everyone believe that they are selfish people who do not care about helping the citizens. Because of this, Tanja starts worrying about whether her little brother is safe or not. Meanwhile, Asai looks very worried until they finally spot the cathedral in the distance. Back with Tanja and the adventurers, they head toward another noble's mansion, but that one is also closed. Suddenly, a portal appears in front of them, and countless monsters begin emerging from it. At the same time, we see the mysterious girl laughing while saying that the despair of humans brings her joy. However, Maya and Kilmaria suddenly appear behind her. We then learn that the witch's name is Guralibula, although everyone simply calls her Guri. Elsewhere, Gloria confronts Sebastian because he refuses to open the gates for the adventurers and civilians who desperately need shelter. Gloria firmly declares that she will personally take responsibility for anything that happened. Sebastian replies that those were exactly the words he wanted to hear from her. Because of this, he finally steps aside and opens the gates. Soon after, Tanja and the other adventurers enter the mansion, and everyone becomes relieved. Gloria warmly welcomes them inside and tells them to make themselves comfortable. At that moment, a portal suddenly opens, and a monster rushes toward Tanja to attack her. However, Taiga immediately appears and defeats the creature with a single strike. Back with Kilmaria and Maya, Guri tells Kilmaria that she should destroy the entire city. However, after Kilmaria refuses, Guri accuses her of betraying the Demon King. Maya then says a few words, but because Guri refuses to listen, she begins charging a powerful attack aimed directly at Maya. Meanwhile, Asai runs through the city at full speed while searching for the slime's core. At that exact moment, Kuan and Gloria appear before him. Asai becomes happy to see them and immediately says that he needs Kuan's help to locate the core. Kuan quickly jumps across the rooftops and activates her detection ability. She notices the presence of both Maya and Kilmaria nearby, and after continuing the search, she finally discovers the slime's core. At the same time, Guri becomes nervous after seeing that Maya received her attack without suffering even a single scratch. Kilmaria then tells Guri that she will show her what a true attack really looks like. After creating a giant sphere of darkness, Kilmaria launches it at Guri, smashing her through several stone towers. To make things even worse for Guri, Maya suddenly appears and announces that she wants to test a new ability she has been developing on her. Hearing this terrifies even Kilmaria herself, causing her to immediately run away from the area. Meanwhile, Asai and the girls finally reach the slime's core. They try attacking it, but the core constantly keeps moving around. Suddenly, the slime rises high into the sky in order to protect its core. Because of this, Asai asks Gloria to throw him with all her strength. After Gloria launches him into the air, Asai successfully reaches the monster and uses his stone throw skill to strike the slime and destroy its core. As he falls back down, Maya catches him in her arms and proudly tells him that he did an excellent job as an adventurer. Afterward, both Maya and Kilmaria say that once they return home, they are going to spoil Asai with lots of affection. This immediately annoys him because he thinks all of them are way too mischievous. Finally, Asai explains that everyone in the city became extremely happy because not a single person died during the disaster. We also briefly see the result of Maya's new ability, which created a massive crater where Guri is left floating helplessly. Even Guri cannot believe that Maya possesses power comparable to the Demon King himself. Later on, Asai explains that after saving the city, the Adventurer Guild rewarded him by promoting him to Golem rank. A huge celebration party is even held in his honor, but because Asai is not very sociable, he feels uncomfortable seeing so many people crowded inside his house. At that moment, Tanja, Gloria, and Sophie arrive and tell Asai that as a reward for defeating the slime, one of them will be allowed to kiss him. The girls immediately begin playing rock, paper, scissors to decide who gets to kiss him. After a long while, Asai goes outside together with Maya because she stayed outside to avoid drawing attention to herself. Maya truly acts like a caring older sister who would rather let Asai receive all the credit for everything. Maya also tells Asai that ever since they arrived in this world he has matured a lot. Asai replies that it is all thanks to her because besides protecting him this entire time, she also taught him the value of many things. As expected, Maya immediately tries to take advantage of the moment by attempting to kiss Asai. This instantly makes him angry. To make things even worse, the other girls suddenly arrive and tell Asai that Gloria has been crying non-stop because she also wants to give him a kiss.